Blowin' in the Wind by the legendary Bob Dylan, a legend in our time.
Hi, welcome to Notables. Today we're featuring legendary singer-songwriter Bob Dylan. Bob Dylan was born Robert Allen Zimmerman in St. Mary's Hospital in Duluth, Minnesota on May 24, 1941. A number of his songs, such as Blowin' in the Wind and The Times They Are A-Changin', became anthems for the U.S. civil rights and anti-war movements. Bob Dylan's music defied existing pop music conventions and appealed hugely to the counterculture.
Bob Dylan grew up in Hibbing, Minnesota on the Mesabi Iron Range west of Lake Superior. He spent a lot of his time as a young man listening to the radio, first to blues and country stations broadcasting from Shreveport, Louisiana, and later to early rock and roll. He formed several bands while he was in high school at Hibbing High School. One of those bands was called the Golden Chords, and they performed at their high school talent show, and they were so loud that the principal pulled the plug on the microphones. In his 1959 school yearbook, Robert Zimmerman, as he was known at that time still, listed as his ambition, quote, to follow Little Richard, unquote.
That same year, using the name Elston Gunn, he performed 2 dates with Bobby Vee, playing piano and providing hand claps. Zimmerman moved to Minneapolis in September 1959 and enrolled at the University of Minnesota. His early focus on rock and roll gave way to an interest in American folk music.
Bob Dylan soon began performing at the 10 O'Clock Scholar, which was a coffee house a few blocks from his campus. He began actively becoming involved in the local Dinkytown folk music circuit, and during his Dinkytown days, Robert Zimmerman began introducing himself as Bob Dylan for the first time. In his autobiography, Dylan acknowledged that he had been influenced by the poetry of Dylan Thomas, and that's where he got his name from.
In January 1961, he moved to New York City, hoping to perform there and visit his musical idol, Woody Guthrie, who was seriously ill with Huntington's disease in Greystone Park Psychiatric Hospital. Guthrie had been a revelation to Dylan and was the biggest influence on his early performances. Dylan played at various clubs around Greenwich Village and received a positive review in the New York Times of a show at Gertie's Folk City. Dylan played harmonica on folk singer Carolyn Hester's third album, which brought his talents to the attention of the album's producer, John Hammond. Hammond signed Dylan to Columbia Records in October.
The performances on his first Columbia album, which was titled Bob Dylan and released in 1962, consisted of familiar folk, blues, and gospel material combined with just 2 of his original compositions. The album made little impact, though, selling only 5,000 copies during its first year, which was just enough to break even. Within Columbia Records, some referred to the singer as Hammond's Folly and suggested dropping his contract, but Hammond defended Bob Dylan vigorously.
While working for Columbia, Dylan also recorded several songs under the pseudonym Blind Boy Grunt for Broadside magazine, a folk music magazine and record label. Dylan made 2 important career moves in August 1962. He legally changed his name to Bob Dylan and signed a management contract with Albert Grossman. Grossman remained Dylan's manager until 1970 and was notable both for his sometimes confrontational personality and for the fiercely protective loyalty he displayed towards his principal client.
From December of 1962 until January of '63, Dylan made his first trip to the United Kingdom. He had been invited by TV director Philip Seville to appear in a drama called The Madhouse on Castle Street, which Seville was directing for BBC television. At the end of the play, Dylan performed the song Blowin' in the Wind, one of the first major public performances of that song.
On July 29, 1966, Dylan crashed his 500cc Triumph Tiger 100 motorcycle on a road near his home in Woodstock, New York, throwing him to the ground. Though the extent of his injuries were never fully disclosed, Dylan said that he broke several vertebrae in his neck. In the wake of his accident, Dylan withdrew from the public and, apart from a few select appearances, did not tour again for 8 years.
In the late 1970s, Bob Dylan became a born-again Christian, and he released 2 albums of Christian gospel music. The first was called Slow Train Coming. He released that one in 1979, and it featured the guitar accompaniment of Mark Knopfler from the group Dire Straits and was produced by veteran R&B producer Jerry Wexler. The album won Bob Dylan a Grammy Award as Best Male Vocalist for the song Gotta Serve Somebody. Bob Dylan released a second evangelical album in 1980. That one was called Saved.
In 1988, Bob Dylan enjoyed success with several other music legends. Those musicians were George Harrison, Jeff Lynne, Roy Orbison, and Tom Petty, and they called themselves the Traveling Wilburys. Their multi-platinum Traveling Wilburys Volume 1 reached number 3 on the U.S. album chart.
Since 1994, Bob Dylan has published 3 books of drawings and paintings, and his work has been exhibited in major art galleries. As a songwriter and musician, Dylan has received numerous awards over the years, including Grammy, Golden Globe, Academy Awards. He's also been inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, the Nashville Songwriters Hall of Fame, as well as the Songwriters Hall of Fame.
In 2008, a Bob Dylan pathway was opened in the singer's honor in his birthplace of Duluth, Minnesota. The Pulitzer Prize jury in 2008 awarded him a special citation for his profound impact on popular music and American culture, marked by lyrical compositions of extraordinary poetic power. Perhaps one of the greatest icons of American music, Bob Dylan is a true poet and composer. Volumes can be said about Bob Dylan and his music, for he truly is one of the notables, the well-sung heroes of songwriting.
Come gather round, people, wherever you roam, and admit that the waters around you have grown, and accept that soon you'll be drenched to the bone. If your time to you is worth saving, senators, congressmen, please heed the call. Don't stand in the doorway, don't block up the hall.